The mic was cold against my palm. Not ballroom cold, waiting for you cold. Like it already knew what was coming. Fairy lights trembled overhead. Crystal glasses clinked below. Soft laughter, polite applause. The kind of night that looks perfect from a distance. And I remember thinking, seriously, this is the moment they picked to break me. Mason's hand sat on the small of my back. Light, familiar, possessive in that way nobody calls out. He leaned in like he was steadying me, like he was the sweet fiancé everyone believed in. Beside him stood his mother, Vivian Harrow. Pearls. Perfect smile. Eyes sharp enough to slice you open without moving her mouth. She held my gaze half a second too long, the way a woman does when she's checking if you've forgotten your place. The ring on my finger flashed when I shifted. Big, loud, expensive. A distraction, so nobody would look close enough to see the truth sitting right behind my teeth. I scanned the crowd and felt the whispers travel. Phones angled low near hips. People pretending they weren't watching while they absolutely were. Everyone trying to solve the same question. Who is she to them? Because tonight I didn't show up how they expected. No safe navy dress. No quiet little smile. No soft voice that makes rich people comfortable. I walked in wearing the version of me they never bothered to imagine existed. And the second Vivian saw it, her smile twitched. Just once. Like a crack in porcelain. Here's the part people don't understand. I wasn't shaking because I was nervous. I was shaking because I was angry. A few weeks earlier in that same house I'd turned the wrong corner. One hallway, one open door, and I heard everything. Vivian and her daughter Callie, saying my name like it was a problem they could handle. Laughing like they'd already finished the job. I heard the name of the woman they actually wanted beside Mason. I heard how easy it would be to get rid of me. And I heard Mason's life being discussed like a business deal, with my heart as the fee. So when Vivian pressed the microphone into my hand tonight and said in that honeyed voice, "Say a few words, sweetheart," she thought she was giving me a cute little moment. What she gave me was a stage. I turned toward the crowd and let the silence stretch. Long enough for the air to change. Long enough for Mason's fingers to tighten. Then I smiled, small, calm, almost kind. "Yeah," I said. "I do have a few words." In my clutch my phone buzzed once. I didn't even have to look. Because the proof was already saved. The kind you can't charm your way out of. I lifted my eyes to Mason and watched the color drain from his face. That's when I knew. They still had no idea what I was about to play. For everyone to hear. You ever notice how a room can go from warm to frozen in one breath? That's what happened the second my thumb hovered over my phone. Mason leaned closer, smiling for the crowd, but his voice was barely a whisper. "Babe, don't do this. Not here. Not here." Like there was a right place to humiliate me. Like there was a polite corner somewhere for heartbreak. Kept my smile. The one that makes people think you're fine. "Relax," I said softly into the mic. "I'm just telling the truth." Vivian's expression didn't change. Not fully. But her fingers tightened around her champagne flute so hard I thought it might crack. Callie's mouth went a little dry, and she did that thing people do when they're trying to look bored, like none of this matters, while their eyes scream. I lifted my phone slightly so the screen caught the light. And I hit play. First it was just static. Small hiss. Then Vivian's voice, clear as day, smooth and sharp at the same time. "She thinks a ring makes her permanent." A few nervous laughs scattered in the crowd. Confused ones, the kind that stop halfway because nobody's sure if they're allowed to laugh. Then Callie's voice came in, bright and cruel. "Let her have her little moment. Mason gets bored of his charity cases eventually." My stomach clenched. Even though I'd heard it before. Even though I'd replayed it alone a dozen times until my hands stopped shaking. Hearing it in front of everyone was different. It was like watching your own bruise form in real time. Someone in the front row made a sound, like a gasp that tried to pretend it was a cough. A woman near the bar covered her mouth. A man's laugh died hard in his throat. And then Vivian again, calm as if she were discussing flowers. "We just need the right story. Something that makes her leave on her own. Or makes Mason believe she's not worth keeping. Mason lunged. Not dramatically. Not like a movie. Just quick, instinctive, like a man grabbing a glass before it falls. He reached for the mic for my phone for control. I stepped back. And for the first time that night I dropped the smile. No, I said firm. Quiet. The kind of quiet that makes people listen harder. You don't get to touch this. He froze, eyes flashing. You're making a scene. A scene. I breathed out a short laugh. One that wasn't happy. Mason, you were making plans. Vivian finally moved. She took one step forward like she owned the air. Sweetheart, she said gently, like she was saving me from embarrassment. You're emotional. This isn't appropriate. I turned my head toward her, still holding the mic. Oh, I'm emotional. I let my gaze sit on her pearls, her perfect hair, her perfect face. You're right. I am. I looked back at the crowd. And since we're being honest, this recording isn't even the worst part. Mason's jaw tightened. Stop. But I wasn't looking at him anymore. I was looking past him, toward the doorway, because that's when I saw her. A woman I'd never met before. Walking in like she belonged there. Vivian's eyes flicked to her, just for a second. And that tiny flick told me everything. Because the woman smiled at Mason like she already knew how this story was supposed to end. And suddenly I understood why Vivian had wanted the microphone in my hand. Because she thought I'd never notice the replacement waiting in the wings. She didn't walk in like a guest. She walked in like the ending. Like the whole night had been set up for her entrance. And the rest of us were just props in the scene. She was in a white dress. Soft fabric, expensive cut, not bridal, but close enough to make people blink twice. Hair pinned back like she'd practiced it. Lipstick perfect. Smile. And the way she looked at Mason. Not curious. Not polite. Familiar. Like she was checking if he'd done what he promised. My throat went dry. I kept the mic near my mouth, but my voice dropped low, almost to myself. Who is that? Mason's eyes flicked toward her, and the smallest shift in his face gave him away. Not shock. Not confusion. Recognition. And that was the moment the floor tilted under me. Vivian stepped in fast. Too fast. She slid between me and the crowd like a velvet curtain, still smiling, still gentle. Darling, she murmured, you've had your moment. Let's not ruin the evening further. Ruin. Like I was a stain on her tablecloth. Callie stayed near her, watching me like I was a glass she'd been hoping would finally shatter. The woman in white stopped beside one of the floral pillars and waited. Just waited. Like she knew she didn't have to chase anything. Like it was already hers. I glanced at the audience. The room had changed. People weren't just watching anymore, they were calculating. Who's aligned with who? Who's about to fall? Who's going to pretend they never knew you? And that's the part nobody warns you about. Betrayal doesn't just break your heart. It rearranges the whole world. I held up my phone again. Before anyone tries to take this from me, I said into the mic. Just know. I sent it to someone already. Mason's head snapped toward me. You did what? I tilted my head, voice steady. You heard me. Vivian's smile finally tightened. Not gone, just strained. Like she was holding it together with nails. The woman in white took a step forward. I'm not here to fight, she said, voice smooth and calm. This is unnecessary. Unnecessary. Like I was the inconvenience. I looked straight at her. And you are. She hesitated for half a beat. Just half, then smiled again. Avery. Avery. The name hit me like a door slamming. Because I'd heard it before. Not from her mouth, from Vivian's. The girl we actually want beside him. My fingers gripped the mic tighter. Mason tried to soften his face, tried to do that. Please don't look. Listen, he said, quiet, urgent. We can talk upstairs. Not like this. I laughed once. Short. Bitter. Upstairs. I repeated. So you can explain it in private. So you can spin it. So your mother can coach you. Vivian's voice turned sharp under the sweetness. You're embarrassing yourself. I stepped closer to Mason, close enough that only he could hear me. Tell me the truth, I whispered. Right now. Who is she to you? His lips parted. And for 1 second I saw panic. Not for me. For him. Then Avery spoke again, a little louder, like she was tired of waiting. Mason, she said. Are we doing this, or not? The room went dead silent. And Mason, my fiancé, my safe place, the man who swore he'd never let anyone hurt me, looked at her like he was about to answer. That's when my phone buzzed again. One new message. From the person I'd sent the recording to. 3 words that made my blood run cold. I have more. A hand touched my elbow. Not gently. Not politely. The kind of touch that says you're about to disappear and nobody's going to make a fuss about it. I didn't even have to turn my head to know who sent them. Vivian was already standing there with that calm little smile, like she was watching staff clear a spill. Sweetheart, she said, voice warm enough to fool strangers. Let's step aside. You've said enough. I looked down at the hand on my arm, then back up at the crowd. My heartbeat was loud in my ears, like a drumline marching straight through my ribs. And then my phone buzzed again. I glanced at the screen. Same number. Same sender. I have more. Under it, one more message popped up like a punch to the throat. They're about to call you a thief. Don't let them take your phone. For a second, my brain went completely blank. Like my thoughts ran into a wall. Then everything clicked into place so fast it almost made me dizzy. This wasn't just embarrassment. This wasn't just family drama. This was a setup. I tightened my grip on the mic and said, loud enough for the whole room to hear, "Please don't touch me." The hand froze. The crowd shifted. Murmurs. A ripple of discomfort. Because now it wasn't a private scuffle, it was public. Mason stepped forward fast, eyes wide. Smile strained like it was glued on. "Babe, okay. Just let's breathe. We can fix this." Fix this. Like I was the problem to clean up. Kept my eyes on him. "You want to fix it," I said, voice steady, almost soft. "Tell the truth. Right now." His jaw worked like he was chewing on something sharp. "Not here." I laughed. Just one short burst. "You keep saying that." Vivian leaned in, her perfume hitting me like a warning. "You're spiraling," she whispered. "You're going to regret this." I turned my head toward her, still holding the mic. "No," I said quietly. "I'm going to regret the version of me that stayed silent." Across the room, Avery's posture shifted. She wasn't smiling anymore. Her eyes darted between Mason and Vivian like she was suddenly realizing she'd walked into the wrong kind of plan. My phone buzzed again. File came through. Then another. I didn't open them yet, just saw the names. Harrow.pdf. Video_study room 7 days ago before. Private investigator. Study room video. 7 days ago. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like a fall. I lifted my phone slightly. Just enough that Mason could see the screen without anyone else catching it. His face changed. Not confusion. Not anger. Pure panic. That's how I knew the sender wasn't bluffing. Vivian's gaze flicked to my phone. And for the first time tonight, her smile actually cracked. Her eyes sharpened. Her voice went low and dangerous. "Take her aside," she said to security, like she was ordering a chair moved. And that's when it happened. Avery stepped closer to Vivian, and in the movement, quick, subtle, I saw Vivian slide a small velvet box into Avery's clutch. Like evidence. Like a trap being loaded. Then the head of security leaned in and said, almost apologetically, "Ma'am, we need you to come with us. There's been an allegation." I stared at him. An allegation of what? He hesitated. Then, with the whole room listening, he said the word Vivian had planned for me all along. Theft. The word theft didn't land in that room like an accusation. It landed like a gunshot. You could literally hear the air change. People stopped breathing. Someone's fork hit a plate. A chair scraped. And suddenly every eye that had been watching Vivian and Mason swung straight to me, like I'd been unmasked as the villain in their little fairy tale. Security tightened their grip on my arm. Not hard enough to bruise, just hard enough to remind me I wasn't in control anymore. Vivian let out a soft, theatrical sigh. "This is so unfortunate," she said like she was mourning a tragedy. "I really didn't want it to come to this." Callie's eyebrows lifted, all fake shock. "Wait, are you serious?" she gasped loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Oh my God." Mason didn't look at me. He didn't say that's not true. He didn't step in front of me like a man who loved me would. He just stared at the floor for half a second. And that was worse than screaming. I swallowed. My mouth was dry, but my voice came out steady. "What exactly is missing?" Vivian's eyes gleamed, just a flicker. Like she'd been waiting for that line. "My mother's heirloom piece," she said. "A diamond pendant. It was in my private sitting room earlier." Private sitting room. The one hallway I'd accidentally turned down. The one door I'd overheard them behind. My stomach twisted. I looked at Mason. "You're going to let her do this?" He finally looked up, and his expression was complicated. Like he wanted to look sorry but couldn't risk it. Like he was trapped between his mother and the crowd. "Just cooperate," he muttered. "If you didn't do anything, you have nothing to hide." I stared at him. "That's what you're going with," I said quietly. "That's your line." Avery stepped forward, her voice calm, almost bored. "This doesn't have to be dramatic," she said. "Let them check your bag. It'll be quick." Quick. Of course she wanted it quick. Because the faster this went, the less time I had to think. My phone buzzed again. I didn't take my eyes off Vivian, but I felt the vibration like a warning flare in my hand. "Don't hand them your bag. Ask for CCTV. Now." My pulse jumped. I raised my chin and spoke into the mic again because if they were going to drag me, they were going to do it in the light. "No," I said, clear as glass. "You can't search my things without a police report. And if you're accusing me of stealing from a room in this venue, then there's a simple solution." Vivian's smile tightened. "Darling." "CCTV," I cut in. "Pull the footage." A ripple moved through the crowd. Small whispers, people nodding like, "Oh, that's fair." For the first time, I saw a little hesitation in security. Because now it wasn't just Vivian's word. It was a measurable thing. "Record." Vivian's voice stayed sweet. "This is a private family issue." I laughed short, sharp. "You made it public when you said, theft into a microphone." Mason took a step closer, voice low, urgent. "Stop pushing. You're making this worse." I turned my head slowly. "Worse than being framed in front of hundreds of people," I whispered back. Then, like a magician revealing the trick, I finally opened the video file the sender had sent. Video_study room of 7 days ago before. My thumb hovered. My whole body felt like a wire pulled tight. Vivian noticed my screen and her eyes snapped to it. For the first time all night, her calm cracked into something sharp. "Give me that," she hissed under her breath, the sweetness gone. I stepped back. "No." Security shifted again. Ready to take my phone this time. So I lifted it high, turned it toward the crowd and said into the mic, "Before you touch me again, you should probably see what I just received." Mason's face drained. Avery's lips parted slightly, like she'd forgotten how to breathe. Vivian's smile was gone now. Completely. And then I hit play. The screen lit up. Shaky footage. Dim lighting. Study room. And the first voice that came through the speakers, clear, familiar, undeniable, was Mason's. "Okay," he said on the recording, calm as day. "If we're doing this, we do it tonight. And we make sure she takes the fall." My knees nearly gave out. But I stayed standing. Because the next sentence, whatever it was about to decide everything. Mason's voice echoed through the speakers. And it didn't sound like my fiancé. It sounded like a stranger who'd been rehearsing my downfall. "Okay," he said in the video, casual, like he was ordering dinner. "If we're doing this, we do it tonight. And we make sure she takes the fall." The room went so quiet I could hear the little crackle of the audio. I felt the crowd lean forward without even moving. That kind of silence where everyone is suddenly present. Vivian lunged. Not at me, at the phone. The proof. But I had the mic in one hand and my phone held high in the other, and the second she moved, I stepped back and turned. So the screen faced the audience, not her. Don't, I said, voice sharp now. You don't get to hide it. In the video, the camera angle was low, like someone had recorded from inside a bookshelf or behind a stack of folders. The study room looked expensive. Dark wood. Leather chairs. A clean desk that didn't feel lived in. It felt controlled. Then Vivian's voice came in, smooth and deadly. People believe what they want to believe. We just need to give them a story they can swallow. Callie laughed, light, cruel. And she's perfect for it. Is intense. Emotional. Everyone already thinks she's a little unstable. My stomach flipped. Because I knew exactly what they were doing. They weren't just trying to frame me as a thief. They were trying to frame me as crazy. Mason spoke again, and I watched his face in real life while his voice played on my screen. His real eyes looked desperate. His recorded voice sounded confident. We planted in her bag, he said. Simple. She panics, she overreacts. That's the part people remember. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Oh my God." A woman near the front shook her head like she didn't want to believe her own ears. Vivian in the video. Security will handle the rest. And if she tries to fight it, we make it about her history. My breath caught. History. I didn't even have time to process it before Callie said it. Bright and smug. That's why we got the PI, Mom. Her father's record, her mother's issues. We can spin it. Make her look like she comes from chaos. Kiss. My chest tightened so hard it felt like I couldn't get a full breath. Because I'd never told Mason the full story of my family. Not the ugly parts. Not the ones I was still trying to heal from. And here they were, using it like a weapon. I felt my hands shake, but I kept the phone steady. I forced my voice through the mic anyway. You hear that? I said to the crowd, voice raw. That's my life to them. A strategy. Mason finally snapped in real life. Stop, he shouted, too loud, too late. Turn it off. He grabbed for me again, and security moved instinctively, like this was their cue to remove the problem. But the crowd shifted. Not toward him. Toward me. Because when people hear a man calmly plotting your destruction, suddenly you're not the crazy one. Vivian stepped forward, her voice rising in outrage. This is manipulated, she snapped. This is edited. I looked straight at her. Then show your CCTV, I said calmly. Let's compare. Her eyes flashed, and for 1 second, I saw the truth behind her polished face. Fear. Not of me. Of what else might be seen. Avery stood frozen, one hand clutching her purse like she'd just realized she was holding a bomb. Her mouth opened but nothing came out. Her eyes kept flicking to Vivian, like she wanted permission to leave but didn't dare. The video kept playing. Mason's recorded voice. And Avery comes in after. Clean. Perfect. Right, girl. Mom's happy, the donors are happy. My throat tightened. So that's what she was. Not a person. Replacement part. The crowd's murmurs grew. I'm angry. I'm shocked. Some smug. Like they were enjoying the drama but pretending they weren't. And then the video dropped one more line. Vivian's voice cold as ice. If she refuses to go quietly, we'll make sure she can't. I felt my blood go cold. Because that wasn't just framing. That sounded like a threat. I lowered the phone slightly, staring at Mason like I'd never seen him before. Tell me, I said into the mic, voice low and shaking. What did you mean by can't? Mason's lips parted. Vivian's eyes snapped to him. Callie swallowed. Avery took one step back. And right then, right as I asked the question, my phone buzzed again with a final message from the sender. There's a second recording. The one about what they planned for your car. I didn't hear the music anymore. I didn't hear the whispers. All I heard was that sentence on my screen like it was being screamed inside my skull. The one about what they planned for your car. My stomach dropped so hard I actually felt dizzy. Like my body understood the danger before my mind could catch up. Because framing me, humiliating me, replacing me, that was cruel. But my car, that was something else. I lifted my eyes and looked at Vivian. And she knew. I swear she knew the moment I read that message. Because her face didn't show surprise. Showed calculation. Like she was watching to see what I'd do next. I stepped back, still holding the mic, and my voice came out sharper than I expected. Nobody touches me. Nobody touches my phone. Security hesitated. The crowd was still buzzing from the first recording, and now their hesitation had weight. People were watching. Phones were already recording. The whole room had turned into a witness. Mason took a step toward me. Hands open like he was the victim here. "You're spiraling," he said. "This is not real. It's someone messing with you." I stared at him. "Then why are you sweating?" I whispered. He flinched. Avery stood off to the side, pale now, lips tight. She looked less like a confident replacement, and more like someone realizing she'd been dragged into a crime scene. Vivian's voice softened again. Too soft. "Sweetheart," she said, "you're scaring yourself." "No," I snapped, surprising even me. "You're scaring me." And I didn't wait. I turned and walked, fast, straight off that little stage through the crowd toward the exit. People stepped aside like water. Some stared. Some looked away. Some watched like they were afraid the truth might splash onto them next. Behind me, I heard Mason call my name. But it didn't sound like love. Sounded like panic. Outside, the night air hit my face. Cold, sharp, real. My heels clicked too loud on the stone walkway. The valet area was lit with those bright white lights that make everything look exposed. I scanned the line of cars like I was searching for a body. My car was there. Sitting innocent. Quiet. Like nothing had ever touched it. My hands shook as I unlocked my phone again. The sender had dropped another file. Audio on 9 p.m. M4A. Press play. And Vivian's voice slid out of my speaker like poison. "Make sure it's done before she leaves," she said calmly. A man replied. Someone I didn't recognize. "That's risky." Vivian's laugh was soft. "Not if it looks like an accident." My throat tightened. I felt my vision blur for a second, like my eyes were trying to protect me by going unfocused. Then Mason's voice cut in, low and impatient. "Just do it. She's already unstable. If something happens, everyone will say it was her. Her emotions, her drama." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't. Because now it wasn't theory. It wasn't maybe. It was them. Talking about me like I was disposable. I looked up at my car again, and my body moved before my brain did. 2 steps forward, then 3, like I needed to see it with my own eyes. And that's when I noticed something. The hood wasn't fully latched. Just slightly raised. Like someone had been inside. Froze. My phone slipped a little in my hand, and I whispered, barely audible. "What did you do to my car?" Then behind me a voice spoke, close. Too close. Familiar. "Please don't open that," Avery said. And when I turned, her eyes were glassy. Not angry. Terrified. Like she just realized she wasn't the next bride. She was the next person they could blame. Avery's voice was barely above a breath. "Please don't open that." The valet lights made her look almost ghostly. White dress, pale face, eyes shining like she'd been crying but refused to let anyone see it. I stared at her. "Why?" My voice came out rough. "What's in there?" She swallowed hard. Her gaze flicked past me toward the ballroom doors. Like she expected Vivian to step out any second. "I didn't know," she said, shaking her head fast. "I swear I didn't know it was this." "This." Snap. "Avery, my hood isn't latched. Someone went in there." Her lips trembled. "They told me it was just to scare you. To make you leave quietly." I laughed once, sharp and empty. "And you believed that?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. I didn't have a choice. That stopped me. Because something in her tone wasn't arrogance anymore. It was the sound of someone trapped. I took one step closer, keeping my body between her and the ballroom doors. "Explain," I said. "Right now." Avery's eyes darted. She leaned in, voice shaking. "Vivian has people," she whispered. "Not just security. Not just staff. People who do what she wants because she pays them. Or because she owns something about them." My skin crawled. She pointed subtly toward the corner of the valet area where two men stood near a service door, pretending to smoke. Except they weren't smoking. Their eyes were fixed on us. Watching. Waiting. Avery's voice broke. "They were supposed to make it look like you drove off angry. You'd be crying, distracted. And then something would happen. Nothing fatal. Just enough to make you disappear from this story." Disappear. My throat went tight. My hands turned cold. I looked back at my car and suddenly it didn't look like mine anymore. It looked like a trap with my name on it. I lowered my voice. "What did they do?" I asked. "Tell me exactly." Avery hesitated, then whispered. "I heard them talking about the brake line." Everything inside me went silent. Brake line. That isn't a prank. That isn't scaring someone. That's the kind of thing that ends with headlights spinning and metal screaming and your body getting blamed for a decision you never made. I stepped back from the car like it had teeth. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the sender. "Don't drive. Call the police. Also, Vivian is coming outside." I looked up, and there she was, Vivian Harrow, walking out through the doors like she was stepping into a spotlight, chin lifted, posture perfect. Mason followed half a step behind her, face tight, eyes scanning the valet area like he was hunting for something he'd lost. My pulse hammered. Avery grabbed my wrist, lightly but urgent. "You have to go. Now." "Go where?" I didn't even have time to think, because Vivian's eyes landed on us. And her smile returned. Low. Controlled. Like she was pleased. "There you are," she called out, voice sweet enough to fool a stranger. "I was worried you'd run." I swallowed. "I didn't run," I said. "I walked away from your crime scene." Vivian's smile didn't move. "Such strong words," she said. "Be careful. People might think you're unwell." Mason stepped forward, palms out. "Please," he said, voice low. "Just come inside. We can handle this privately." Privately. Always privately. Where there are no witnesses. Where the truth can be bent until it snaps. I lifted my phone. "I have recordings," I said. "More than you think." Vivian's eyes flicked to Avery's hand on my wrist. Just a flicker. Then her gaze sharpened. "Avery," she said softly. "Come here." Avery froze. Her fingers tightened around me like she was holding on to the only solid thing left. Vivian's voice stayed calm, but there was steel under it now. "Now," she repeated. Avery's mouth opened. Nothing came out. And in that moment I realized something terrifying. Avery wasn't the mastermind. She was the next victim who got close enough to the Harrows to be useful. Mason's eyes met mine, and his voice dropped into a warning. "Don't do this," he said. "You don't understand what you're starting." I took a slow breath, and I did the most dangerous thing I could do. I said, "Then explain it. In front of everyone." Vivian's smile finally thinned, and she nodded toward the two men by the service door. Just a small motion like brushing lint off her sleeve. They started walking toward us. Yes, purposeful. And Avery whispered, shaking right into my ear. "They're not here to talk." The first guy reached me so fast I didn't even see his face clearly. Just a shadow moving under those harsh valet lights, a hand stretching out like it already owned my wrist. My body reacted before my brain did. Yanked back. Hard. "Don't touch me." I snapped, loud enough that it echoed off the building. Avery grabbed my elbow. "Go now," she hissed, and her voice wasn't dramatic anymore. It was pure fear. So I did the one thing Vivian didn't expect. I didn't run into the dark. I ran toward the light. I shoved past Avery, lifted my phone above my head, and hit record. Front camera, screen glowing, my face shaking but clear. "Everyone can hear me, right?" I said, speaking straight into the lens like I was talking to one person. You. If anything happens to me in the next 5 minutes, it's not an accident. The men slowed for half a second. Just half. 'Cause cameras change people. Not their hearts. Just their behavior. Vivian kept walking, calm as ever, like she was strolling through a museum. Mason followed her, jaw tight, eyes darting between me and the recording phone. "Oh, sweetheart," Vivian called, voice syrupy. "Don't make this worse." "Worse." I laughed, but it came out jagged. "Your people just tried to grab me outside. You accused me of theft inside. And now my car's been tampered with." Mason stepped forward, hands raised. "Stop filming. You're twisting everything." I turned the phone slightly so it captured him too. "Say that again," I said. "Say it on camera." His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Avery's breathing was fast beside me, like she'd been holding her breath for months, and it was finally breaking. The men moved again, one on my left, one on my right. Quiet, practiced, eyes dead. And that's when I did something petty but perfect. I hit my car alarm. The sharp wail tore through the valet area like a siren of its own. Heads turned. People spilled out of the ballroom doors. Guests in suits and dresses, confused, annoyed, curious. Witnesses. Vivian's smile twitched. Just once. I pointed at my car hood with my free hand. "That hood wasn't like that when I parked," I said loudly. "Someone opened it." Security finally appeared at the doorway. Venue security this time, not Vivian's private guys. They paused, uncertain, reading the scene like a bad script they hadn't rehearsed. "Call the police," I said, still filming. "Right now." Vivian's voice sharpened under her sweetness. "There's no need for police. This is a misunderstanding." Avery suddenly stepped forward, voice shaking but loud. "It's not a misunderstanding." She looked at the crowd, really looked. "They talked about her brakes." The words hit the air like a brick. The crowd reacted, gasps, murmurs, someone saying, "What?" Like their mind refused to accept it. Mason snapped. "Avery, stop." Vivian's eyes cut to Avery like a blade. "You're confused," Vivian said softly, almost kindly. "You've had too much to drink." Avery's face crumpled. "I haven't had anything," she whispered. I didn't know how deep you were willing to go." And then one of the men lunged. Not at me, at my phone. His fingers brushed the edge, trying to yank it down. I jerked back, still recording, still live, my voice rising. "Did you see that?" I shouted to the crowd. "He just tried to take my phone." That's when the real sirens appeared. Faint at first, then louder, closer. "Police." But the moment I saw the patrol lights sweep the driveway, Vivian's shoulders relaxed. Like she'd been waiting for them. And when the first officer stepped out, Vivian walked right up to him like they were old friends, and said something in his ear that made his face change. He turned toward me. Not toward her. Toward me. "Ma'am," he said, firm, stepping closer. "I'm going to need you to hand me your phone." The officer held his hand out like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Ma'am," he said, firm. "I'm going to need you to hand me your phone. And I swear to you." In that moment my whole body went cold. Not because I was scared of police. Because of the way Vivian's shoulders softened behind him, like she'd just watched her chess piece land exactly where she wanted. I didn't move. I just lifted my phone a little higher so the camera caught his face, his uniform, everything. "Okay," I said, voice shaking but clear. "What's your name and badge number?" His eyes narrowed. "Ma'am." "No," I cut in. "Say it. Out loud." The crowd was closer now. People in gowns and suits spilling out like this was the best show of their lives. And the best part. Half of them had their own phones up too. Recording from 3 angles. 5 angles. In. The officer hesitated, then said it. "Badge number." I nodded slowly. "Good," I said into my camera. Everyone heard that. Mason stepped in, voice low, trying to sound reasonable. "Just give him the phone. This is getting out of control." I turned my head and looked at him like I'd never met him. You don't get to tell me what's out of control, after I heard you plotting my life like it was a schedule. Vivian sighed, performative. Officer, she's clearly distressed. She's been making accusations all night. I snapped my eyes to Vivian. Accusations? I laughed, bitter. You called it theft. You sent men to grab me. And my car has been tampered with. The officer's tone hardened. Ma'am, I'm not here to debate. Hand me the phone. Took a breath. Then I said very calmly, no. Silence. The kind that makes even the confident people blink. I'm not refusing because I have something to hide, I continued, voice steady now. I'm refusing because you're asking for my evidence, while the person I'm accusing is standing right behind you. Vivian's smile didn't reach her eyes. This is ridiculous. Avery suddenly moved. She stepped forward like her legs finally decided to work, clutch shaking in her hand. I can explain, she blurted, voice cracking. Vivian gave me. Vivian's head snapped toward her, eyes sharp enough to shut her mouth. But Avery didn't stop. She opened her clutch with trembling fingers and tipped it upside down. Something glittered as it hit the pavement. A diamond pendant. The crowd gasped like one body. Callie's face went white. Mason whispered, Avery, what are you doing? Avery's voice broke. I didn't know what to do. She told me to hold it. She told me it was insurance. Vivian didn't scream. She didn't panic. She just smiled, small, controlled, and said, Officer, that's your proof. She stole it, panicked, and dumped it. My blood boiled. You're insane, I whispered. And then the officer's eyes locked onto me again. Not Vivian. Not the pendant. Me. Ma'am, he said, stepping closer, voice turning cold. Put the phone down. Now. My phone buzzed in my hand. One new message from the sender. Only 4 words. He's not clean. Run. The second I read he's not clean. Run. My body moved on instinct. Not graceful. Not cinematic. Just survival. I stepped back once, like I was complying, then turned and sprinted straight into the crowd with my phone held high, still recording. People scattered. Someone yelled. My heels nearly betrayed me, but adrenaline carried me like a wave. Behind me I heard the officer's voice snap. Stop! And then the sound of footsteps chasing. And that was the moment I knew. This wasn't about keeping the peace. This was about taking my evidence. So I did the only thing that felt bigger than fear. I shouted, I'm live. I wasn't even sure if I was, but the words worked like a shield. Phones rose higher. People moved closer. Witnesses multiplied. The officer slowed, just enough. Because predators don't like light. I backed up until I hit the edge of the driveway, breathing hard, camera pointed at my own face, tears burning but not falling yet. You see this? I said into the lens, voice shaking. This is what power looks like when it thinks nobody can touch it. Then a new voice cut in loud and firm. That's enough. Step away from her. Another officer. Different uniform posture. Different energy. He moved between me and the first one without asking permission. My knees almost gave out from relief. Until I realized Vivian was already pivoting, already preparing her next lie. She's hysterical, Vivian said smoothly. She stole from me. She's been threatening us all night. The second officer didn't even look at her first. He looked at the diamond pendant on the ground. Then at Avery, still trembling. Then at the crowd filming. Then at my phone recording, my voice, my shaking hands. And something in his face hardened. Ma'am, he said to me softer now, do you have reason to believe your safety is at risk? I didn't try to sound strong. I didn't try to sound respectable. I told the truth. Yes, I whispered. They talked about my brakes. That did it. The whole scene shifted like the air itself changed sides. Within minutes my car was blocked off. Another unit arrived. Venue security was pulled aside. The valet staff were questioned. And when a tech popped the hood, carefully like it was fragile, he looked up and said, "This latch was tampered with." Then, quieter but enough for me to hear. "And the brake line, it's been compromised." I put a hand over my mouth, because my body finally understood how close I'd been to never making it home. Mason tried to step toward me then. Like he could still reach me. Like his voice still mattered. "Please," he said, eyes shiny now. I didn't. I looked at him and felt something inside me go still. Not hate. Not even rage anymore. Just clarity. "You didn't stop it," I said. "And that's the same as doing it." Avery started crying, quiet, ugly, real. She handed over everything. The clutch, the messages, the timeline. She didn't look at Vivian when she did it. She looked at me like she was finally choosing the right side of her own life. Vivian's face stayed composed until the moment the honest officer said, "Ma'am, I need you to turn around." Even then she didn't beg. She didn't scream. She just stared at me with pure, venomous disbelief, like she couldn't accept that someone like me had survived her. Weeks later, when it was quieter, when the lawyers were loud and the nights were too silent, I sat alone and listened to my own voice on those recordings again. And I realized something that hit me like a sunrise after a long storm. They didn't almost win because they were smarter. They almost won because I was trained to stay polite, to doubt myself, to swallow discomfort so other people could stay comfortable. I don't do that anymore. Now, when my gut whispers, I listen. When someone tries to shrink me, I take up more space. When a room turns cold, I don't beg it to warm up. I walk out with my head high. And if you're listening to me right now, if any part of this feels familiar, please hear me. You are not too sensitive. You are not crazy. You are not overreacting. Sometimes your fear is just your wisdom trying to keep you alive. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you've lived through something similar, share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.